I have to speak upon this. I feel that this war was never meant to be won. This Iran, Israel, and the United States war was never meant to be won. I saw an interesting take on the fact that Iran's been throwing missiles and rockets over at Israel for 40 days. Now that's substantial. Why is Israel still there? You know, it's the size of New Jersey. I feel like he could just blanket the entire country, and with that many days and the constant bombardment. Of course, they had the Iron Dome. I'm sure a lot was shot down, but at day like 10, the Iron Dome wasn't working anymore. You know, with all them drones and whatnot. What are they hitting? The alleged idea was that they were hitting energy infrastructure, which impacts the United States. Now, I am a United States citizen, and I believe a very patriotic United States citizen. And I believe that our country has essentially been infiltrated for a long time, since almost the beginning of the country, by outside forces that have monopolized our country at this rate, which I deem to be a serious threat to the average American, especially the average American. Now, obviously, the infiltration made a lot of Americans rich in the process, but it separated those from the rest of America. It really did. It really did. What are American interests? Business. The business of America. What is that? What is that? Our dollar is based on nothing now. And they really genuinely want to make it based on nothing because they want to bring in all these crypto and digital currencies. It's going to be nothing. Nothing. Based upon an idea. It's based upon an idea that America is strong and mighty. Well, we've been knocked off our throne. We've been knocked off our throne. Military might? Yeah, right. We have it, but in order to have true military might, you have to have the backing of the people back home and in service. We don't have that anymore because it has become so difficult to live. There is such a big difference between people down here and people up here. And there's no in between anymore. It's just down here and up here. And, you know, shout out to Karl Marx because he's been demonized in America. Why? Because capitalism rules here. And Karl Marx predicted this precisely. A two-class system. Capitalism essentially results in monopolies controlling absolutely everything, at this point controlling even the government. And think about it. And it makes perfect sense. I understand psychology enough to understand why, I'm just gonna get a measly $70,000 salary as a public servant. I don't even know if that's what it is. You know what I mean? I don't know how much politicians earn. Or I can sell my loyalty to this corporation and tell them I'm going to rule or vote on policies that benefit that corporation for a quick $5 million here. That's 6 years of their life they would earn in one deal. You know what I mean? And so, you think about that mathematically, you think about it logically, they're going to take it. They're going to take it. I view that as unpatriotic. Why? Because just because a company was formed in America, once it gets to a certain status, and level, and especially in this globalized world that we live in, it could up and leave. Like, it's only here because it profits being here. And if by being in another country it could profit more, it would most likely do that. I mean, that would be the logical thing to do if all you cared about was money. You know, and you could go deeper into it, and that some of these corporations want control, want to push an agenda. I don't know if you are familiar with the Fallout series. They essentially went over this, and there was huge resource wars. What are we going through right now? We're fighting over oil. We're fighting over a strait which allows the transportation of the majority of the world's oil. There was a resource war between the United States and China in that game, in that franchise. So it's a show now too. So, you know, pretty big franchise. People love it. I happen to love it. You know, it's really cool. Let's get back on track. We're soon to be fighting. If we stay in this war, the wise thing to do would be pull out. Why won't we do that? Because it would be an embarrassment. It would be an embarrassment to our emperor, Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to get off. I already did, but, you know, a lot of people voted for him. And nothing would have been different other than the escalation that we've gotten ourselves into. But to say that any other president wouldn't be bought and sold by those same entities, that's a lie. It's a lie. Like, it just flat out is a lie. It's not possible. You need $2 billion to run for president and campaign and do all this stuff. Do you have $2 billion on hand? I sure don't. You know who does? Corporations. So take that into account and take, for example, money makes the world go round. That's what they say, right? Money is a fabricated idea. Before we didn't have a gold standard, I could have phrased that differently. We used to have a gold standard, right? Why is gold valuable? It doesn't have that much use. It's a heavy metal. Physically, it's like literally heavy. It doesn't have that much utility. It's cool to look at. It's shiny, and it's heavy. It's kind of soft. It's a soft metal too. You know, it doesn't have that much utility. But it was rare, and people liked looking at it. That's why currencies were backed by gold, but it makes no sense. Do you need it? Do you need gold? When we run out of water, guess what is going to be the currency? Water. Water, because there's a huge need for it. Why is water not... They've tried to privatize water. That's been a thing. That has been a thing in our history. People have brought that idea up. It's a terrible idea. Why? Because you will not be free unless you have the means to purchase water. I would argue we're not free now. What are we free to do? Our freedom of speech is being threatened. Our freedom to transportation is being threatened because there's such a cost barrier to it. You know, our rights to liberty and the pursuit of happiness are so limited now. So limited. Liberty, what even is that, bro? They're attacking libertarians. Not that libertarians represent liberty, but I mean, they're attacking progressive ideas. They're attacking change. It's incredibly difficult for the average person to even do anything because there's a huge cost barrier behind absolutely everything. They're raising electricity prices and not even giving people the option to prevent it from happening. And the reason the electricity prices are raising is because they're adding AI data centers everywhere. people don't even utilize AI to that degree. Corporations and companies will probably utilize it and then realize that they still need people to do jobs. AI has took to hiring people to do jobs because it needs physical, in the world actors. So, you tell me there's limitations to AI. And they've used AI in this crazy war. I was gonna say a bad word to some people. It's a bad word to some people. Let's leave it there. Bizarre war. This is a bizarre war. What are we even fighting over? What are we fighting for? First, it was regime change, which is ridiculous. We wanted to reinstate the Shah, which we had done in the past, and the people of Iran took them out. Why? Because they didn't want to be oppressed anymore. That was why. Because all the oil, their like foundation for economic prosperity in this modern age is oil and the transportation of oil. And so, in order for them to hold sovereignty over their nation, they had to kick the Shah out and Western influence out, rightfully so on their behalf, because we would have milked them dry. The same way America's being milked dry right now. It's an issue. The entity will go unnamed. But it's in reality many entities. It's many corporations, corporate greed. It's just there's one entity that owns all these corporations and operates these corporations to be as bottom line based and greedy as possible. And that is nothing new. That has been going on for a really long time. Napoleonic Wars, French Revolution had a lot to do with that. Napoleonic Wars after that. World War I, World War II. I will go as far as to say there was one family that was on both sides of all that. And it was through finances. For some reason, they were able to stay neutral. Because money can buy you neutrality. Wars need to be funded. And those who fund that war are then those nations fund the nations that go to war. Those nations are indebted to this financer. That's just how it's done. And that's the problem. That is the problem. When you take on debt, there's a huge risk involved. And it makes you less free. So as a nation, we took on so much debt, and we're no longer free. It's just as simple as that. China and Russia probably will join the war if it continues. The wise thing, like I said, to do is to pull out. And if you want to be smart about it, we build defenses here. First and foremost, we have to take that entity out of our nation at the very least, and that would be impossible because they built so many systems here. Systems that we rely on. And that's the problem with the American people. We have become so comfortable. I've been to other countries. I've been to Senegal, Thailand, Costa Rica. There's one thing I saw that in each of those countries, that they don't have nearly what we have materialistically and monetarily, but they have each other and they're happy. They're happy about it. There's a sense of community in each of those countries. We don't have that in America anymore. We don't. and it's largely that's been fabricated as well. You think we just lost our sense of community? You think through competition and capitalistic goals we just lost our community? That's not what happened. Look to the media. I mean, politics itself is a dividing factor in this. The media we consume is a dividing factor. Why does everything have to be so polarized? They started throwing all this queer stuff into all sorts of media, and that divides the population. I don't like homosexuality on this side. We should accept everybody on this side, and for whatever reason, those people just started fighting each other because they couldn't convince the other. It's okay to not be able to convince someone. It is. You know what's not okay? Getting people killed for no reason. Now, and I say that there is a reason. He doesn't want to be embarrassed. If he pulls out of this war and says, "Oh, we shouldn't even have been there in the first place," he embarrasses himself. Narcissists can't do that. They can't do that. It is like, it would be like shooting themselves in the foot. That's how they feel. Their ego is the most important thing to them. So how can we expect? Well, he's happens to be our president, so it doesn't matter what we expect. We elected this fool. And he's a fool. Like that is genuinely one of the best words to use. He is an absolute fool. Now, he's a fool that knows how to make some money for his family by not technically legal means, but also not he walks a fine line between illegal and legal, and it's because he has been doing this a while, and he has friends in high places. And let me explain something else. Rules can change, obviously. And if you're doing something illegal and you have the power to change rules, why not just change that? You can look at, what is it, King James version of the Bible. I think that's that dude's name. Dude changed words in the Bible. King James. So just think about that. It's power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately. You can change history for all you care. And how would we know? Because we read the books you provide us, right? It's a fact of the matter. Hey, may God bless. We could have done so many things differently in this war. Looking at it from a military standpoint, we didn't need to bomb no elementary schools. For one, turn everybody against us. Because that's atrocious. It's atrocious. It just is atrocious. What does that do other than make them absolutely furious and us absolutely discouraged? Because from home, what, I'm supposed to just be happy that you bombed an elementary school? You wasted $500,000 to bomb little kids that posed no threat? Ridiculous. Furthermore, like when I said they were using AI in these systems, AI painted a target on a painted target. Literally, a little artist went on a runway and drew a jet, realistic jet, granted, but nonetheless, hit it twice, back to back. Why? Because it couldn't detect that the plane was still. It detected the plane was still there, because you could see the wings, you could see the head, and you could see the tail. After a direct hit, the AI could not detect that. This big splash, and then what it saw was wings, a head, and a tail. And so it said, "Oh, the plane's still there. I just hit it." What? Say that again. Boom. What? It's still there. Telling you, they like to think AI is smart. AI is an objective machine. It does very poorly with subjective information. As a matter of fact, like, it genuinely can't really interpret it all that well. It has to be programmed to have a response to the subjective. And so what happens when that subjective is not the same as what it was programmed for? That's what happens. What happens when the objective is not the same as for what it's programmed for? It can't think. It has no like idea of what time even is, because it's not. It does have an idea of probably what time is. Let's say if it was conscious and it was this hive mind, as they say, it would have an idea of what time is, but it wouldn't have an idea of what time is in a physical and spatial manner, because it cannot perceive it. Alright, I'm done rambling. May God bless. Praise Yahweh. Much love and adios.